I said, if I don't win this, I'm going to stand up and spit on the ground and walk out. And I mean it. And then I look at my spouse. I said, what you going to do? She said, I'll kick the cameraman on the way out. I was like, great. So everybody had their assignment. We knew what we were going to do. We were going to storm out. Luckily, they called my name and I didn't have to act up, you know?
Hey everyone, I'm Matt Wilstein from The Daily Beast, and welcome to Obsessed, the podcast. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about what the critics think of everything that is on TV, from the Super Bowl to the work of my guest, Niecy Nash-Betts, who is so funny on shows like Reno 911. She won an Emmy for Dahmer, and she's in the show All's Fair with Kim Kardashian that did not get the best reviews. But we talk about all of that and more on this episode. But first, I'm joined by our producer, Rachel Passer, with one question. Rachel, are you going to watch the big game this weekend?
Am I going to be watching? Are you kidding me? Of course I'm going to be watching. This is actually the first year in a really long time, though, that my team isn't in it. So I'm a little bit devastated. But
What's your team?
I am a ride or die, you're going to hate this, but a Chiefs fan. And I don't know where this hatred came from for the Chiefs all of a sudden, other than we just started winning. Sorry about it.
Now, are you like an old school Chiefs fan, or
Yes.
are you like you're a Taylor Swift fan, so you got on board because of Kelsey? What are we dealing with here?
No, so both of my parents are originally from Kansas City, and I'm originally from Las Vegas before they had a football team. So I obviously had to always be cheering on the Chiefs. So yeah, that's my ride or die team, like way before the T Swift fans were up in here.
Well, I have to confess to you that I am technically a New England Patriots fan. I grew up in the Boston area, but I would be lying if I said I was actually a really big football fan. I mostly watch the Super Bowl for the ads, of course, and the halftime show, which this year there's going to be a big one.
100%. I'm so excited about Bad Bunny. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know a lot of his songs, but I like him as a person, especially
Yeah.
like the way he called out Ice's ass. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna tune in.
Yeah.
But there's so many different speculations about who is predicted to be like a feature that he brings out. I think Cardi B would be iconic though.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how it all goes down too. I mean, from the moment Bad Bunny was announced as the halftime performer, the right MAGA freaked out. They have been like very upset about the idea of a Spanish language performer of the Super Bowl, calling it un-American, despite the fact that he's from Puerto Rico, which they don't seem to realize is part of this country. But I think he could go two different ways, right? He could really lean into it and make a big statement about ICE, and he did that at the Grammys when he won Album of the Year. But I also wonder if he's going to kind of do something more broad and like accepting, and sort of try to bring in all these people and make it harder for the right to really go after him. Like, they're going to have to really work to criticize what he does if it is as inclusive as it seems like it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be really smart to do like a lot of symbolism or a lot of metaphors, similar to what Kendrick Lamar did last year about what it's like to be a Black American in this modern age. And I think it would be really smart. At the same time, I would love to see him just so obviously come after the president, come after the right side, and like just say his piece, you know? Like, I think the way that he already was able to be so eloquent in his speech. First of all, English isn't even his first language, okay? And he was still that eloquent. That's freaking incredible. But I think the fact that he was able to do that, and already he has the right side hating him, might as well full send it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I think that's what a lot of people, his fans, probably want and are hoping for. I think even there were a lot of political messages at the Grammys, but they were very much like broad and sort of a generalized like message of we need to, be kinder to immigrants. We need to, and people wore ICE out pins, but there wasn't as much direct against the president. There wasn't a lot of naming of names of who's at fault here. So I think that's something that we should look out for as well. And obviously that's something that will seriously get under Donald Trump's skin and piss him off in a way that I think will be a moment in this country if it happens.
Yeah, I'm so curious if he's going to attend the Super Bowl. He did last year, and I think it stopped a lot of people from being able to get into the Super Bowl in an appropriate
Yeah.
amount of time. Which, if I was paying, what is it, like $15,000 to go to the Super Bowl? If I was paying that much for a ticket and I wasn't able to get inside on the first down just because the president is up there, like I'd be pretty upset. So maybe he won't make an appearance.
Yeah, we can confirm that he will not be in attendance because there are
Oh,
reports that have come out that he's not going because his staff warned him about how badly he would be booed by the crowd, and he does not want to have that experience.
yeah, I'm happy that he's not going to be there. I'm happy that Bad Bunny is going to be spinning on the track and just doing his thing. I do think that like he is probably going to have at least 3 outfit changes. He's a fashionista. I don't know. Did you ever see that ad for the underpants that he was in?
No.
Oh my
What was
God.
that?
Well, you being a straight man, I don't know how much you're going to like it, but
I missed it. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, people were losing their minds over this ad. It was, I think, for Calvin Klein's. And it's just him like shaking his ass, and like it is just beautiful. I think he's gonna do a couple crazy outfit changes.
Yeah.
I am really excited to see what he does. Are you a big bet person? Like, do you ever place bets during the Super Bowl at all?
No, I am a person who is scared of gambling. I stay far away. What about you?
So I've only placed like a couple bets in my whole life. Being from Vegas, like I said earlier, my parents
yeah.
were really adamant. We're not gonna
It's
like
your culture.
well, you'd think it would be, but my parents were always like, no, that's like really bad because when you live there, you can't also be a gambler. That's just like dangerous, you know?
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, but I was also like a kid, so I don't know why they instilled those values into me. Anyway, I've only placed like 1 or 2 bets. One was I thought Mike Tyson was gonna win the fight against Jake Paul. I was very, very wrong. Um, and for this one, I've been seeing some really interesting bets about like different things that he might incorporate in his show. Whether or not I think I'm voting for the Patriots to win. Honestly, I'm betting for them to win.
Well, you'll make more money that way, I think, if they win.
I can't believe nobody thinks they're going to win. That's surprising to me. They made it to the Super Bowl. They're clearly good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying I've looked at the odds and it's not in their favor.
Listen, you can't be a fan and then also be a hater.
I know.
Like,
I'm a terrible fan.
Yeah. I think you need to paint yourself in the full like body colors for the game. Just like really get yourself reset into the spirit.
Yeah, I know. You asked me to wear a jersey on this episode, and I had to break the news to you that I don't have one.
That's like so disappointing to me.
All right. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for talking with me about the Super Bowl. I am very much looking forward to hearing what all of the critics have to say about Bad Bunny's performance and so much else that is going down on Sunday night.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt. Yeah, I'll be rooting for your Patriots, so fingers crossed.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. You know I do. And speaking of criticism of TV shows, I got to talk on this episode with Niecy Nash-Betts, who is a very funny actress who was in a show that the critics did not like so much, Ryan Murphy's All's Fair, which also starred Kim Kardashian and got just absolutely savaged by everybody who saw it, except some fans who liked it. So I got to talk to her about that and so much more. So stick around. This is my conversation with Niecy Nash-Betts. Niecy Nash-Betts, welcome to Obsessed, the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
There's so much that I want to get into in this conversation about your career and about this new Audible comedy series, Big Age. But I like to start these conversations going all the way back to your childhood, to growing up, and ask you, what is the first piece of pop culture that you remember being just really obsessed with as a kid growing up?
Ooh, the first piece of pop culture was probably the TV show Roots.
Yeah.
It was a mini series. That's what they called them back then. And I remember everybody being glued to the TV, gather round, gather round. You know, it was like appointment TV viewing. And that's probably the first thing I really remember about pop culture.
Was that personally inspiring to you? Did you see that show and say, I want to be in something like this someday?
Actually, I saw the most beautiful Black woman I had ever seen in my little 5 years of being alive on television. My grandmother used to watch, well, back then they called them soap operas. I don't know what they call them now, but maybe they still call them soap operas. but they didn't come on. And I saw this beautiful black lady, and I had seen black people on TV before, but baby, they did not look like this. She had on a long red dress, and her eyelashes looked like butterflies. And I said, Grandmama, who is that? She said, baby, that's Lola Falana. And I was like, wow, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be a black, fabulous woman on TV.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you sort of like whose career did you look up to? Was that it for you when you were even when you were starting out in acting? Is that what you were
Oh
looking to do?
yes, Lola Falana, she did everything. She could sing, and dance, act. I loved Cicely Tyson. I loved Diana Ross. When she was an actor and like Lady Sings the Blues and Mahogany. So yeah, those were some of the gals.
The very first movie that you did, I believe, was Boys on the Side with Whoopi Goldberg, right? That was the first one.
Yes.
Was that a big deal
Yeah.
to be in a movie with her when you were just starting out?
Such a big deal. I had never been in a movie before in my life. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is crazy that I actually get to do this movie." And when I booked the movie, they said someone will pick you up. And I was like, Okay, you know what I mean? I thought it was gonna be, some guy named Jared in the Toyota Camry that was gonna give me a ride to the airport. But it was an old school stretch limo in front of my house. And I almost missed my flight because we thought the limo was for the lady next door who died. Like, we were waiting on the family to come out and get in the
Yeah.
car, looking out the window like, "She was such a nice woman. Wasn't she nice? So nice." And didn't know that that was my ride, so I almost missed my flight. But, yeah, I was very happy to be a part of that project. That's my first time acting.
And what was it like actually being in that movie and being on set, and did you get any interaction with Whoopi as part of that experience?
Did I? Let me tell you something. There was something I had to say, my character had to say, and Whoopi kept laughing because it just sounded weird. And the director was getting more and more frustrated. And I went in the bathroom, which was my one, and I said, Lord, if I come out of here this time and this lady laugh, I'm letting them all know that this is not my fault. So she laughed again, and I did the unthinkable. I said, stop, hold up, time out. Hold the roll, whatever you say. I called cut, didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. And the director was like, "What is going on?" I was like, "Well, she's messing up the scene because she keeps laughing." I pointed at Whoopi. And she said, "No, you didn't." I said, "Girl, yes, I did because they not gonna fire you." You know? I was like, mm-mm, mm-mm-mm.
I guess your line was not supposed to be funny.
Well, I don't know what it was supposed to be, but I ended up being able to say what I wanted to say, and we were able to get through it. And so we laugh about it from time to time when I see her now.
Well, your career has been such this interesting mix of comedy and drama, but I think the thing that really broke through early on, and I think the thing that I remember seeing you in first was Reno 911, which is obviously a very broad, ridiculous, improvised comedy, and kind of probably set the tone to some degree for what people thought you could do at that time. But I read that you never really wanted to be a comedian. You didn't think of yourself as a funny actor or funny person even coming up.
Well, I knew that I was funny, but I never got rewarded for it. I got pinched in church, because I was acting up, or I would get put on punishment if my report card says talks too much. And my mother's like, "Well, what were you talking about?" I was like, "I was telling jokes." And so I got in trouble for being funny. So I didn't know it was a thing.
Mhm.
So I wanted to be a serious actor, not a comedic actor. And it just, when I finally leaned in and accepted, how I was made, uniquely and wonderfully made, I went outside and said, I'm Niecy Nash and I'm funny. And that's when I started working.
And was Reno a big part of that, sort of getting in that world of comedy and being working with all those incredible people on that show?
Well, yeah, because, I didn't really even know what improv was. I had never heard of the Groundlings or Second
Mhm.
City or Kids in the Hall or any of that. I didn't know what any of that was. So, but I knew I was funny. And that's what I leaned on when I walked into that audition. And, it worked in my favor. 20 years later, we're still, putting the cop uniforms on and showing up.
The staying power of that show is incredible. And I was talking to Carrie Kenny Silver not too long ago, and she basically said that you are the driving force behind keeping this show going because she said whenever you're on a red carpet together and people ask, "So, is there going to be more? What are you going to do next?" That you're the one who always says, "Oh yeah, we're going to do more," and then everyone's sort of committed because you've committed them.
Oh yeah. And also I send an email twice a year and say, guys, what's everybody doing? It'll be fun to get the band back together. And then I keep talking about it out in the world and eventually it comes back around.
Is that just because you love doing it? You want to keep doing it forever, or what is it that keeps you wanting to go back into that world all the time?
Those are some of the most funny human beings I've ever worked with in my life. And it's just a joy to go to work and laugh all day with people that are that talented. And I'm like, yeah, if it ain't broke, let's keep going.
I feel like that's the kind of show that could have gotten you very stuck in this comedy thing, in this industry, sometimes you do something and people only see you one way, but I think you have really been able to break out of that, and one of the things that I think was a stepping stone for that is the show Getting On, which is one of my personal favorites, that you did on HBO. For anyone who didn't see it, it's a show about nurses in a hospital, and it's very funny, very darkly funny. But also, I thought you especially got to do some very emotional stuff on that show as well.
Thank you.
Did you feel that at the time that it was sort of a transition for you into something different, being on that show?
I wanted it to be. And I remember one of the producers was like, "You do exactly what I tell you and you'll be on the E list." And I was like, I just pretended like I knew what he meant. I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." And I said to myself, "The E list? Well, if Kathy Griffin is on the D list, why do I want to be on the E list?" And I didn't realize he said, "Because if you're on the Emmy list." I said, "Oh, that's what he meant." And he was right. That was the one that put me
Mm.
in the running for an Emmy. And it changed my life.
That show is so fantastic, and I constantly think about this scene that's I believe is in the very first episode, that's you and Alex Borstein doing,
Oh, the
the
language
language line,
line
the
scene.
translation where she's next to a patient, she's translating what the patient is saying to you, who's across the room on the phone talking to a translator.
It was the very first thing we shot that day of the whole bit. I'm talking about the very first when cameras went up. And it was so interesting because Alex didn't understand what the woman and the patient was saying. So she was guessing at it and then she was repeating something. Then I had to repeat. It was a horrible game of telephone. That was the most delicious piece of cinema I think that is on my resume.
That is I think it's maybe the funniest thing that's ever happened on television, and I am sure not enough people have seen it, but it's such a funny
Oh, it was a
scene.
good time.
Did that sort of so that was the first thing you shot. What did that tell you about what this show was gonna be and sort of what you were gonna be able to do in it?
Oh, it was very much like, "Get ready, girlfriend. You in for it. You are in for it."
Yeah. Um, so let's talk about this show, Big Age, that you're, out promoting now. It's an Audible series. It came to you from Kenya Barris, I assume. Is that sort of how it got to you?
Yes. Myself, Cedric the Entertainer, and Jennifer Lewis. I used to play Cedric's wife on a TV show called The Soul Man. So I was very familiar with him. Jennifer Lewis has been a dear friend of mine, but we never had the opportunity to work together until now. And so um the elderly are some very, very funny people. There's a lot of comedy gold to mine in that area. Cedric and Jennifer are married. They move into a retirement village community. And I'm Cedric's ex girlfriend from years ago, and I live there. So there's a lot of shenanigans that happen between the three of us in this retirement community.
Yeah, and it's a unique project because it's audio only, so people can listen to it. Was there a freedom for you doing that? That it was sort of just using your voice? I don't know how much I'm sure you've done some, voiceover animation stuff, but this is kind of a different animal, right? Doing an audio series like this.
Yeah, but this is the best. This is the job where you can come to work in your pajamas.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to have your hair and makeup done. You just show up and, have a good time. Definitely got a lot of help from being on Reno because with Jennifer and Cedric, there's a lot of improv that happens. So you have to be ready for that. But I think this project is so funny. People are really gonna enjoy this one.
Yeah, it's I was wondering if you all were able to record together because I think with animation, it's the people are almost never recording together, the actors.
We had the opportunity to. I recorded some with Jennifer and some with Cedric. So I'm so glad that Kenya Barris made that happen because I just think it makes the storytelling so much richer.
Yeah. You've worked with so many incredible actors. I mean, these two in this project, thinking about this other recent show you did, All's Fair, the cast in that is just unreal. I mean, working with Glenn Close and Sarah Paulson and all of these people, in that show. What, you know, I think Ryan Murphy, especially who you've worked with several times now, has this incredible gift of getting people together and especially women. What do you think is the secret to his ability to put these casts together and make these shows?
You know, everyone that I know who has worked with Ryan respects him so much. And as a matter of fact, the ladies that you just named, Kim Kardashian, Naomi Watts, Sarah Paulson, Tiana Taylor, Glenn Close, we all signed on. We all said yes without ever having read a script. That's how much we love Ryan.
Yeah, you just trust him.
Oh, yeah.
You won your first Emmy working with him on Dahmer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What was was that another one where you just said, I'll do whatever he wants me to do, and it led to something great?
Listen, he said, "I have this thing I want you to do." So I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." Then he sent me the scripts, and I'm like, "Wait, what? This is what I said yes to?" But I was already in the weeds by that point. I had already said yes, and I'm like, "Dahmer, okay, this is what we doing? Okay,
And, what about winning the Emmy? What do you remember from that night? What stands out in your memory?
okay." I remember sitting there with my spouse and my mother, and I said, "I worked so hard on this." I looked at them, I said, "If I don't win this, Imma stand up and spit on the ground and walk out." And I mean it. And then I look at my spouse, I said, "What you gonna do?" She said, "I'll kick the cameraman on the way out." I was like, "Great, mama, what you gonna do?" So everybody had their assignment. We knew what we were gonna do. We were gonna storm out. Luckily, they called my name and I didn't have to act up, you know?
Yeah, you didn't have to make a scene.
I did not have to make a scene. And the truth of it is, I probably would have clapped for the other person and cried like a baby, but I had a plan, a backup plan just in case.
Yeah, I mean, all of these shows that you've done with Ryan, and he does so much. They get some of them are hugely Emmy award winning, and then I mean, I'm sure you're aware that All's Fair. The reviews were maybe not as positive as some of the other ones, and I think that people were particularly cruel to Kim Kardashian and her performance. So I'm wondering just what it was like for you to watch that go down. Did you talk to her about it at all? Because this was like her first big acting job, and it was not received probably how she wanted it to.
Well, it wasn't just Kimberly. The critics hated the show. I mean, that's really the bottom line. And anything that they could pick apart, they did. They did not enjoy our show, but the fans spoke very loudly, kept us number one from the time we premiered to the time the season finale happened. And the fans locked in, highest rated show internationally as well. And it just goes to show you that the critics don't know everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
The audience had an appetite for the show and they showed up for us. And I'm so grateful for that. And of course, I called Kim. I called all the ladies, um, because I just want to check on you and make sure you're well. And I mean, I still do that now, not just because people hated us, but that's just in my DNA. But we love each other. We have a good time filming the show. And it's especially fun when Ryan comes to set.
Yeah.
Cause we get on his nerves. So that's always a good time. Yeah.
So I want to kind of move to asking you some questions about, your career and looking back. Um, thinking back, is there something you would go back and tell yourself when you were just starting out as an actor that you wish you had known, some piece of advice or information that you wish you could tell yourself?
Oh, wow. I don't think so. I think the moment that I believed I could, that was all I needed. And so when other people didn't see it for me, I would feel sorry for them genuinely because I felt like I know this is my path. You know what I mean? Um, and I've been on it ever since. Ups, downs, all the things that happen in a career, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
It sounds like you were, very ambitious and confident in those early days. Do you feel like your relationship to ambition has changed at all since then? Are you still as hungry to try new things and take on new challenges at this stage?
Of course I am. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? I love to do something I've never done before. You know what I mean? I never wrote a book. I'm like, "Oh, let me write a book." I've never directed. I had never directed before. I'm like, let me direct something. You know what I mean? So all of the and then different characters and different things that I've never played. Yeah, I stay hungry.
Is there something that's on your career bucket list, like a project or a type of project or something that you're like, I really want to do that?
Two things. One, I really want to work with Ryan Coogler on anything. I don't care what it is. And two, I want to play a villain.
I could see that.
You know what I mean? I'm always very nice, or I'm somebody who's doing a bad thing for a great reason. But I just want to be a down and out, you know, villain, a bad girl.
Maybe Ryan Coogler can maybe combine those into being a villain in a Ryan Coogler movie.
Maybe.
Um, when you think about all of the, auditions and things you've done over the years, is there a role that got away that you were like, "Ooh, I really wanted that one," and it just didn't happen?
Oh, I don't know about got away, but it was funny. When they did Scandal, when Shonda Rhimes put out Scandal, every woman in town that looked like me audition for it. And I remember we went to something that a Essence magazine luncheon, and Kerry Washington was being honored, and they played the clip that we all auditioned with. And all of a sudden I looked around and everybody was like, "Hi." We all knew it. And when I tell you I was cracking up, tears rolling out of my eyes. We had all memorized that monologue, honey, and everybody was saying it. It do so no, I don't regret not getting it because Kerry Washington killed that role. But I just remember saying, "Wow, all of these women committed. We committed." You know what I mean? But we were still there celebrating her.
Yeah, it was a good part.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything that you said no to or turned down that you now kinda wish you had said yes to?
Ooh, said no to that I wish I had done. You know, sometimes I think about saying no to the movie Girls Trip.
Yeah.
I said no to that movie to do something else. And sometimes I think, well, I wonder what would have happened if I said yes to that.
Was that part of not wanting to do a big comedy, or was just scheduling, or
I was really still trying to let people see me in a different light. you know so I chose something else that was a little more gritty, a little more dirty, and didn't do that big
yeah, you
movie.
probably didn't know how big it was gonna be when you said no to it.
They had no idea.
Yeah. Is there anything you said yes to that you now kinda wish you could go back and say no to?
No, I've had a good time on TV and in movies. I can't think of one thing.
Yeah. Um, we do this segment on this show called Unmissable, where we talk about the piece of TV or movie or pop culture that's really you just have to see. If people could only see one thing that you've made in your career, what do you think it should be?
I think it's episode 3 of Grotesquerie. I think it's some of my best work.
Why is that?
I play the alcoholic in that series, and it is such a nuanced performance when you're playing someone with an addiction because you could be any place in it. You could be plastered. You could be hungover. You could be tipsy. You could be fiending for your next drink. Um, but that series was the one for me. I think it's my best work.
Is there anything you think people should miss that you've done?
I did a movie called Nurse in 3D, and it wasn't my best. It wasn't my best. It wasn't my best. Don't rush out.
I can't even imagine what would be 3D in a movie about nurses.
You don't even want to. Just move on.
When you look back at your career, is there a story or memory that really makes you laugh now, but was not funny when it happened?
Ooh. Well, when we did the first um when the Reno 911 cast did our first pilot, I was praying and praying and praying, and I know I discerned in my spirit that the show was going to go. So when they called and said, "So sorry, it's not gonna go," I was like, "Wait," but I prayed and I got the answer, and I know that this show is supposed to go. And they were like, "Well, I don't know who you prayed to or what was going on, but it's not happening." So 2 years later, they called randomly and said, "Hey, remember the show that we did? Are you around? We want to put it back up on his feed. It's going to Comedy Central." And I was like, "Okay, Lord, maybe I wasn't listening long enough because I know I heard it's gonna go, but I didn't hear dot 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 in 2 years."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I was so devastated. I laugh about it now, but at that time I was like, I'm questioning God. I don't know what's happening. Why is this show not going? And we ended up doing it.
Yeah, not only did you do it, but then you're still doing it so many years later. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder if the original person who passed on that show has any regrets.
I don't know.
Um, we were talking at the beginning about, whose career you really looked up to when you were starting. Is there someone whose career you're jealous of now? Is there anyone who you feel like, ooh, I'm a little, I wish I could have their career?
Oh, never. I love my life. I love my life. I mean, I have friends that do certain work, and I'm like, oh my God, I loved you in this, and I would have loved to be a part of this, but not where I'm looking at your life saying, oh, I wish that was me. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Um, what about your own sort of pop culture intake right now? Like, what's something that you love that you're watching, or that you've seen that you really just connected with, something that you would recommend to people?
Oh, what could I say about that? I mean, my spouse and I, we binged Handmaid's Tale straight through. I mean, from the big. I mean, every night. How many episodes can we squeeze in a night? And she's such a fan of Elizabeth Moss, as am I. I went to an event, she was there. I said, "Elizabeth, I would get so many cool wife points if I could just FaceTime you. And if I could FaceTime my spouse and she could say hello." She was like, "Yes." I pulled the phone. I said, "Baby, somebody wants to say hi to you." I turned the phone around. She said, June Osborne. I said, "Mm-mm, now you done messed up. No, sorry, girl. Go, get back, get back, get back." Yeah, we had a good time with that one though.
Yeah. Well, Niecy, thank you so much for doing this. As I said, I'm a big fan of your work, and I think, yeah, if I could recommend anybody who's listening who has not seen Getting On specifically, I would definitely say check that out.
I would too. That is a great show. Lori Metcalf, Alex Borstein, Mel Rodriguez. Let me tell you something. Lori Metcalf is like a master's class. Pull up and watch that. As an ensemble, chef's kiss.
Yeah, incredible. Niecy, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been great talking with you today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Niecy Nash-Betts for that incredible conversation. I loved how open and honest she was about everything in her career, the stuff that didn't go well, the stuff that did, winning an Emmy for the first time, and the role that she wanted and couldn't get. So there was so much great stuff in that conversation. What did you think of my conversation with Niecy? Let us know in the comments on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at Obsess the Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating and review. Thank you to our producers, Rachel Passer and Devin Roger Reno, and we'll be back very soon.